It'd be like them working on a percentage, wouldn't it? Each company, we would end up with more than one company.
Yes.
So that way, well, in doing that,
We would probably end up with, probably, at least starting out, probably have the same numbers you got now.
well, see, I like that idea because, for a few reasons. One, we don't, honestly, we don't put anyone out. We don't put anyone out of business. Now, I do think the rates would have to be the same.
They would.
Yeah, the rates would be the same.
It would be the rates would be contracted by the city.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure I understood that, right? So, no matter what company you used, the rate's going to be the same.
Yes.
If you like the current company that you're with, you can stay with them. If you don't, then you can, I mean, you have the option to go either any direction you want to go. I think that will go a long way with people, I really do. And it goes back to, we can still keep the companies that we do have. We don't have to worry about, you know, putting local businesses out if some big company comes in and underbids them by $4 or $5, you know.
Which is what would likely happen if you gave the contract to
The
one
big
company.
company that's coming in town right now is not a local business.
No, sir. No,
It's a
sir.
national business.
Mr. Wheeler, what percent of the population do you provide a service for right now? What would you guess?
75% residential.
What is your greatest cost? Fuel?
No, not
Personnel?
fuel, it's dump fees and manpower.
Okay, don't be, would it help you lower your cost if your area of service were a little bit smaller or more controlled? Would that be a positive thing?
I don't think so. I have a question that goes along with this, and I don't mean to interrupt you. With that being said, you have 75%. Roughly how many of that 75% pays on time each month? What I'm getting at is if it was paid through the city, you would have yours.
Right.
So your 75% would pay 75%, you would know that. Now, what would just that right there do for your business? If you knew you were gonna get your money each month.
Not a great amount. We have a pretty good system and a pretty good collection system. It's amazing how skipping someone for a week or two will inspire them.
Greatly.
So,
We give people way too much time, I'm told by smarter people than me in this industry. But if you get to a certain point, you're going to skip. If your driver is paying attention, then they actually get skipped. And then if it goes beyond that, then come out one morning and discover that someone has repoed your trash can. That's always our belief. My workers, it's one of my favorite days because I get to creep around in the dark and go grab people's trash cans. My workers do not care for it very much. And if that doesn't inspire them to pay their bill, then it usually inspires them to change trash companies.
Now, under that theory, you would have, how many trash companies are there? 4, 5?
This is primarily three.
There's 3, but if they're all getting the same price, that means you gotta go with the lowest price. And if I was in business, especially a big boy from out of town, I'd drop that price down, lose money for a year or two, drive everybody else out of business, and then now you're with one trash company. And they're free to raise their rates as much as you want to. That's what I would do if I was your
No, everybody would be charged, the city would be charging.
But at what rate though? Who's setting the rate?
City.
So if you set it for $15 a month, they can't do it for 15. They can't. They're not picking anything up.
Right.
But who makes? Like, do you go out for bids between all the companies to get the lowest bid, and then that's the rate?
You would do that if you were only gonna have one company. But the city would set the price, and then the companies would decide whether or not they can pick up for that price.
Based off of what, though? Where would you, how would you know to set the price at $15? Or
Same way the companies set their prices now.
also you take the average of what,
Take the average, you
see
do
that?
some type of study. I mean,
There's a way.
The same way you set prices now.
The reason I was asking about the percentage is I'd like to see it broken down by ward. And if he has 20% or whoever has 20% of the business, we find out which ward is roughly 20% of the population. And that way we've not made anyone lose their business, lose their job, whatever. And we've also localized the travel for your company to where you're not driving back and forth across town.
Right.
You're in a smaller
I think
section.
what you're gonna find is there are gonna be people in the specific wards, if you take friendly waste away from them and put them with somebody else. they're gonna-
I think if we're looking at what's best for the city, I think you would have to do that type of thing, but we're not taking a business away from anybody. We're maintaining their business, making it cheaper to operate is what my view on it is. So,
Look, the scenario I'm talking about is the customer chooses who picks up their trash.
That's where I
Just
was.
like everything's the same now, just they're paying the city as opposed
They would be
to.
paying the city.
I don't think that's gotten us far enough. I think we're gonna have to lower the cost of it. This is the way to lower the cost of it, make it a little bit more attainable for everybody. And maybe then we get into the, because they've got ideas on other problems we can deal with. Would that be legal?
Would be legal. Now, whether or not you're gonna have any companies hauling trash, if you're setting the price too low,
I think we still
or
have
the
to do-
company's gonna be hauling trash.
We still have to do the price setting the
Yeah.
same way you're
We
talking
have to do
about.
ways and means and everything else.
Yeah, thank you. I also don't want to see a local company go out of business, especially one that does things for the community, because that's great. And I kind of like the idea of the wards, because that goes back to a benefit that you guys talked about at the last meeting, was that you don't have so many companies putting all that heavy equipment across the streets repetitively. So if it's, if they have certain wards or areas or whatever to take care of, then that kind of gives another benefit, and that could be another talking point for the public, as, it's going to help keep our streets in better repair.
The only problem that I can see with wards is if Mr. Withers Company, just using these numbers, it was 75%. 5,300 meters, then we're gonna have to break down each ward, how many meters per ward. I mean, that's gonna be a nightmare trying to figure out to the house what that percent would be. And if that amount is not in that ward, okay, so now we're gonna have to make someone from another ward go with this company to get to that 75% that he gets to keep. That opens up another issue.
It's not an easy issue to
You
try to
have
figure
one
out.
local carrier that would play ball, you have one pseudo-local carrier that might play ball, and then you have a national carrier that's gonna tell you to go pound sand, they're gonna do what they want.
That I will agree with too. We're not gonna make Republic or Ally or whatever you wanna call them, they're not gonna play by our rules.
And they don't get.
You're going to
But I mean, that's
But
just,
a couple points from earlier.
About
multi-year
commercial.
contracts. That's a simple
Commercial
solution.
business.
Fuel escalator solves that problem. And that's a common contractor issue for multi-year contracts. But I also think if you decide you want to go down this path, I believe the city of Kennett should purchase the trash cans. That'd make logistics much easier for everyone. You have, that way they swap companies, they're not swapping trash cans and vice versa. I mean, that's a lot of other cities do that. It's City of Blytheville, City of Gosnell, City of Perryville. They all have their own trash cans. If y'all decide to go this way.
Because it is a contracted service.
Exactly. You're going through the city for their trash. They don't care who hauls it off. They just know that they put the trash by the road, they come back in the afternoon, it's gone. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Good point.
I think that we've got a lot more to think about, a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
more to discuss. I mean,
Yeah, you gotta figure out how you're gonna split it out, to make it fair to everybody.
Okay.
But Terry, one more thing on this subject though, and I'll be done, I mean, 10 minutes for that, but what I was trying to bring up at the last meeting was, can we not charge, I think the whole issue of this is rental houses and the trash left behind. Is that correct? Reason why we're visiting this subject?
That's one of the.
Or just people, not rental, but just
I think
people in
what
general?
John's talking about is a separate, it's a trash problem, but a separate category, separate division of the trash problem. There's the problem of the trash being picked up at each house, but then there's the general problem of trash all over the streets,
Litter.
all over town, the litter.
It's a litter control, so,
It's two separate issues.
so that's not even an issue that we're trying to address.
Right.
Okay.
When we first started discussing this, it was brought to my attention from one of our local business owners that happened to be in town, and they wanted me to know exactly how trashy Kennett really was getting. And I had nothing I could say in our defense, because you can look in any direction, anywhere in town, and it was a accurate statement. So that's when we started this ensemble of trying to figure out how to fix it. And Mr. Wheeler's right, a lot of it is just trash blowing out of people's cars. I mean,
Culture, we gotta do a culture change. You know, it's what it comes down to that.
Well, goes back to the Mo Crew too. That's one of the reasons we started the Mo Crew, was to try to make the city look better. That I think has helped, but we still have the trash issue.
Well, I'll give you this example. I was at Taco Bell. I'm not gonna name the business, that was good. But there's a particular store that came out with a trash bag, with a buggy, not a bag, a barrel. Just like this, and everything went flying out in the parking lot. They didn't care, put it back in there, went right back to their business. I mean, you're not gonna fix that. Sometimes you can't fix stupid. You know, it's,